Hi, welcome to Larry the Mentor Morris podcast. As usual, today we'll be discussing all things community, things like leadership and politics, race relations, and mentoring. But also, we'll be discussing the many issues that affect our world today. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's go. Hi, this is Larry Morris, and I'm so excited to come to you today because, as many of you may know, I am writing a book. It's going to be finished pretty soon. And we are also in the process of building a podcast. This would be the first installment of the podcast. And I'm just so excited because I love coming to you to talk about what I'm doing. I love coming to you to talk about the importance of young people and mentoring and so on and so forth. Today, I'm excited because my first guest is Beverly Powers. Beverly is a best-selling author herself, and she's also a book coach, and she is my book coach. So she's gonna, she's my guest today, and I'm excited. Welcome, Beverly.
Well, hi, Larry. Thank you so very much. I am so excited to be here with you and to have been coming along this journey with you. What is the title of your book, Larry? Just tell
The,
us what
the,
is the title.
the title of my book is 50 Years of Love. And basically, I chose that because I wanted to show the people the love I had for what I did for so long and the love that came back in return.
Okay, so let's talk about this for a little bit.
Great, great.
When did you first start thinking about writing a book and why?
The This is crazy because I've thought about it for probably over a decade. And I knew that, first of all, I wanted to get the idea of how important mentoring was. I've wanted to do that for a long time. But then someone mentioned about to me one day that my grandchildren probably have no idea what I did. I'm the papa. So I've been retired and they haven't seen me go to work. So they were joking, saying your grandchildren probably had no idea what you've done in your life. And so then I began to think about writing the book. And
Okay.
so that was many years ago. I had several false starts because I tried to do it myself, and that proved to be terrible. And after a frustrating period, I'm so happy that I was able to connect with you, Beverly. And so we're on our way. We're just about the home stretch and crossing the
Yeah.
finish
Yes, yes, it's so exciting. So you mentioned that you're retired. So just
line.
tell
Yes.
us a little bit about what you did for your life's work. What did it consist of?
It's amazing. Even when I'm thinking of my own story, because I started out in the YMCA. I lived in the YMCA for 2 years while I went to Goldie Beacom Business School. Midway into the business school, I realized that is definitely not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I could not sit still in an office and do debits and credits.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, there was a youth division connected to the YMCA, and I used to go visit one of my friends who was working in the youth division, and therefore I would see all these children around, and that's where I started working with children. That summer, instead of going home to Bristol, New Jersey, I was
Mm.
offered a job right there at the YMCA to work with children for that summer, and that's what I've been doing ever since.
Wow, that sounds like that was a very fantastic beginning. And we know, well, I know, from working with you in your book that it even gets even more defined into really what you did. And we'll get a chance to talk about that a little bit. But what I want to ask you is, what do you hope your readers are going to take away from your book?
You know, since I spent most of my life working with children,
Hmm.
I tested out. Well, wasn't a theory at first because I grew up in old school days where what the adults said, you had no choice. There was no discussion. Whatever the adults said, they expected it to be done. And if it wasn't done the way they wanted to be done, there were consequences. And when I
Mm-hmm.
came, when I began to watch the children in inner city Wilmington who are out all different hours and doing different things, I began to wonder where their parents were. Where was their mom? Even though I had rebelled against all the things that silently to myself rebelled to all the things about the rules and regulations my mom had, I
Mm-hmm.
began to wonder where these children's where was the structure in their lives, and
Mm-hmm.
so that touched me and that made me want to share. So what I want the reader to get is the reward of working with children to help them grow and develop, and the whole idea that children want structure and discipline anyway. They may rebel against it, but they really want it anyway, and that's what I'm trying to get across in the book.
Okay, so you're talking about leadership and mentoring.
Yes,
Yes. And so how do you feel that that's important today? Looking at, well, you hit it right on the head. It was so different when we were growing up. Wasn't all this back talking or sassing. If you did, there were consequences, right?
right,
Consequences that we did not want to have.
right, right.
So, why do you think that mentoring today is just as important as it was yesterday?
Well, the truth is, it's not just as important. It's way more important today than it was years ago. It seemed like everywhere we went, there was some kind of structure.
Mm-hmm.
There was somebody who we had to listen to, no matter if we wanted to or not, and we got correcting from people that lived down the street, and that helped to mold our behavior and stop us from going too far off the dead end. Today's children really they don't have all of that. The teachers aren't the way the teachers used to be when I was in school,
Mm-hmm.
elementary school and junior high, and really the parents aren't. Of course, there are many parents who are exactly like my grown up parental was.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of children today who are being raised by single mothers, young mothers, and mothers without the benefit of having their mother as an advisor to how they were raising their children. And therefore, you have children who who are born with gifts and talents and skills
Mm-hmm.
aren't able to realize those skills because they don't listen, they're disruptive, they talk back, and they don't really respect authority. So their children only do what they if you let children only do what they feel like doing, they're going to pick the easiest thing, the most fun thing, and they're not going to attempt to do anything that has any difficulty, which of course we all know that's how you get your growth and development.
Right, right. And I'm quite sure that you dealt with that to some extent in what you were doing in your mentoring. So, what I want to ask you, if you can just give us a little secret, little tidbit, is there anything in the book that you think people would be surprised about? Do you have a story to tell us?
I certainly do.
Ooh,
The
hey, let's hear
you know
it.
from the time of course, when I lived in the YMCA with peers, and we're 18 and 19 years old, we did what 18 and 19-year-olds did in the evening and in the night and so on and so forth. Everything was fun, no matter what it was. And so um, when I started working with children, first of all, let me just say this: a lot of the stuff that I did in my career, I believe now God was directing it,
Okay.
because some of the things that I look back on now, my my the method by which I created my movement, I don't know how I came up with that on my own. And so, for example, I knew that once I started working with children, they couldn't see the whole me. the community couldn't see the whole me. I was 19, 20, 21 years old and very much interested in doing what 19, 20, and 21 year olds did.
Okay.
But the community and the parents could not see that part of me because they
Mhm.
probably would not want me to work with their children. So I
Okay.
created a whole space of my own, um, where the community would only see what I wanted them to see.
Okay. So here we go. So now we can get into a story. Do you have a favorite story to tell us?
uh, let's
Come on
see.
now, let us have it. Let us have it. Just a little tidbit from the book. Just a little bit.
You mean about the life that people didn't know me for?
Well, a favorite story or something that people may not know about you, because there are many aspects of your book where people are going to go, I didn't know that. Larry? So, and I know that you had different times in your book, and I'm remembering the times when we were writing and I'm pulling things out of you and you just go. And I have to let you go because that's what when I say go, you just tell a story. It just comes out like it's so vivid and so yesterday. And that's what I love about your book. One of the things I love about it. Of course, the main thing is how you touch so many people's lives. But there's a side of Larry that people don't know. So if you want to hold that into the book, that's fine. But let me tell your audience, there are things in your book that you are going to be very, very surprised about. You didn't
Yeah,
know about Larry. So we'll let him off the hook this time. But when that book
yeah,
comes
uh,
out, we're going to have to come back on here again and talk about some things because he got some splaining to do.
yeah. I think that in general, people in the community did not see me in some cases like them.
Oh, okay.
Particularly as I worked on the street a lot. I worked in the community in the hood. The
Hmm.
affection the hood is nothing more for me is an affectionate term for a neighborhood,
Okay.
abbreviation. So when I worked in the hood, I carried myself a certain way, and they just didn't see that. And but there would be a certain time at night, in different parts of the city, particularly when I had my youth center up on the hill and when I worked down in West Center City, that I could blend in with the adults and still they wouldn't know, they wouldn't see the whole me. It wasn't until I got in my apartment, and
Oh,
away
okay.
from everybody else that I was maybe a different person.
Oh, okay.
you know,
Okay. Good. 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 So listen, you talked about working in the community and you talked about working, which I know, you worked with a lot of children. Do you have children of your own?
yep. When I first started working with children, when I was 19 years old, I didn't pay it any mind. I mean, I was just working with a lot of children all the time. I'm 20 years old, 21. And then all of a sudden I started, wondering whether or not I would like to have children,
Mm.
of my own. And I did. Very quickly I came to the conclusion that sure I would. Absolutely I would like to have some. But I was very much single. And I wasn't trying to, I didn't want to settle down. And I most definitely did not want to have children across town. And I lived on a different side of
Okay,
town.
I got it. I got it. So you were single and you like to mingle, huh?
Hey man, I had a nice bachelor apartment. It was designed to be exciting. The bachelor apartment,
Right.
two couple apartments were designed for me to have fun. I'm in my early 20s and
Okay.
I'm having fun. So
Okay.
it's funny when, um I'm sure this happens to a number of people, including you, Beverly, when you hear a certain song takes you way back to when the song first came out. And I
Sometimes
hear
too far back, Larry. And
I hear
sometimes too far back.
I hear I hear music, and oh man, it just like I can see myself in the apartment.
Yeah.
And so I was, I was able to enjoy myself away from the image that I was trying to create in order to be effective. I didn't want anybody when I'm working with children to say, you want them to do that and you do this over here. Well,
Right. Right.
they weren't going to know that at all. It
Yeah.
wasn't none
Right.
of their business, and they weren't going to know that.
Yeah. Right. I get that. I get that. So I'm going to ask you for one word to
Sure.
describe what you think the difference between today's children and when you grew up.
Discipline.
Mm.
And discipline comes in many different forms.
Mm-hmm.
During some of my youth work days out in the street in the community, I had these young parents to say, "Well, the community won't let it. I mean, the government won't let us discipline our children."
Mm.
And of course, I say that is not what they're saying. They're not saying that. They're saying that without a method, without a plan, you can't beat your kids up when you haven't had a structure prior to that. That
Mm-hmm.
means if you haven't prepared for the discipline, I mean, if you haven't set the stage for them listening to you, um, it's going to take you a harder time to get them to see what you're trying to see if you try to discipline after 8 years or 10 years or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
discipline, because discipline was the norm when I
Mm-hmm.
was growing up. Everybody,
Right.
all parents did that.
Yes. Yes. Your
It was,
auntie, your uncle,
oh yeah, oh
you
yeah.
we lived in a neighborhood that your neighbors would whip your butt. I get home, my big sister, then my mom when she got home, and my dad. But nowadays, you wouldn't want anybody, you know, touching your children like that, right? Because it is a different community.
And mentoring is supposed to come from the family.
Hmm.
Mentoring is the first example or occasion for a child to understand how society works.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I put this in a book or not, but as a matter of fact, I think I did. When what I've always said that the purpose of a parent is to prepare a successful adult.
Hmm.
So if you don't teach your children to adhere to rules and regulations and structure and so forth, they're going to become adults who can't hold a job, who doesn't have an education, who have difficulty with relationships, and and it'll take them forever to realize that's not the right way.
Right,
Whereas discipline today, it's like the children do a lot of what they want to do.
right, right. So yeah, so that's and now you get into why we need mentors today, and that is so
Absolutely.
important. And I love how that's woven throughout your book. Um, and you mentioned God. So what role do you think that your relationship and your spirituality played throughout your career?
I always used to, well, I've said for a while that, first of all, I've heard over and over and over, and I believe that when we are born, God has a plan for us.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on whatever the plan is, He wires us with gifts and talents and skills that will help us to be successful at the plan that He's given us.
Mm-hmm.
However, depending on the environment by which the child is brought up, they may never get to value their natural gifts and talents and skills, and they may not come anywhere near doing what their plan was as adults.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
benefit, what I think a benefit for me was, um, God, and this is not just exclusive with me. God um, saved me from me.
Mm.
The some of the wild and crazy and stupid things that I would do as an early adult that
Mm-hmm.
with my fellows, um, I never got caught doing any of those things. And although they weren't huge things, I might have gotten a record
Mm-hmm.
an arrest record. And if I got an arrest record, nobody would want me to work with their children. I wouldn't be able to get jobs. And so that's my so God kind of directed me. And here's the thing, Beverly, even for much of that time, I was like I forgot what the initials are, but I went to church on Christmas, Easter, and Mother's Day, and that's it. and and so I didn't really proclaim to have a deeper relationship with God, although I believe in God. And
Mm-hmm.
so he kind of moved things around in my path to provide different, help me to get different opportunities to work with children, then another opportunity to work with children, then to hone my skills and gain a reputation. And all of a sudden, people trust me, at a certain point during my career, people
Mm-hmm.
would trust me by basing what other people said. And that's where, so I think all along, at this point, for me to be able to touch as many people as I've been able to touch through children in the
Mm-hmm.
community, I had to have had the confidence in the the reputation in the community that people valued and people trusted. And I talked to a young lady today. Her name is April Cropper, and April was in my programs when she was very little. And had a picture of her that I put up on Facebook, and to say I haven't seen this young lady in many decades, but I always smile when I see the picture. So
Yeah.
today she called me from Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
She's 56 years old. and
Well,
and and, and
we might have to edit that because women don't always like telling their ages,
well,
especially.
well, that adds to. She was about 10 or 11 when we were together, and so as we begin to talk and we haven't seen each other in that time. As we
Uh-huh.
begin to talk about her life with her children, then her reminiscent about when she was in my programs. It became very emotional for her because she felt as though. And Barry, listen, this is something that's amazing for me to hear because it wasn't something like a plan of mine or anything. When she said, I'm responsible for being who she is today, it was like, wow,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah,
And and
yeah.
and so the youth work, the mentoring, the community work, being honest and consistent and caring, um, helps our children, and it doesn't go away. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's not like, what's the Maya Angelou uh, quote that says, they may forget what you tried to tell them, but they'll never forget
How
how
you
you
make
made
them
them
feel.
feel.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think now
Yeah.
now that I'm writing the book and people are making reflections, I'm seeing that I was
Right.
able to. And listen, again, this was God that was doing that, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't have. If somebody said, here's what you should do so they remember it for 30 or 40 years, I'm thinking, what are you talking about? How are they going to remember something that long? And so God was always in my life protecting me from me.
You're right. Right. So here's a question I want you to dig deep in. Dig
Hmm.
really deep. Okay. What is the most powerful lesson that you learned from mentoring, and how has it shaped your own life?
One time I was hired to be a youth counselor with this new youth service center program connected with the YMCA. Now, and this
Mm-hmm.
was years after I first started working with the YMCA, and the director was named George Poe, and George Poe was an older guy who had spent much time down at the Warner Street Y. He's a very humble but brilliant guy.
Mm-hmm.
I worked at the youth service center with Lawrence Roan Moon. People probably know him by Moon, and Julia Morales. And so one day he called me into his office. Now, and I've been working with kids all this time. I'm probably about 24 or 5. and I knew I was good. I felt I was good.
Mm.
So he called me in the office and he says, Larry, you know what your uh, biggest thing, the hardest lesson you're gonna have to learn? I said, no. What? He says, you're not gonna be able to help everybody.
Wow.
And I would say, no. I'm like, I don't know what do you mean? Yes, you can. He says, no, you're not gonna be able to help everybody. And I said, listen, it's like I remember saying this. I said, it's like a lock, and there's a key on your ring that can open up this lock. You just have to keep trying different keys. And he would say, no, your hardest lessons you're going to learn is that you can't help everybody. And certainly throughout my career, there has been some heartbreaking times when I really truly wanted to help somebody, and either they wouldn't listen, or they may have been involved in drugs or crime, and their peers
Hmm.
would tell them either don't listen to me, or they would do it on their own. And even now, as I think about some of the basketball teams that I had, we were close. My basketball teams, no matter what level we were on, we were a family. And when
Hmm.
I see grown-ups walking downtown or on the streets who are on my team, it's like watching a family. And some of them are not doing well at all, and it
Mm.
breaks my heart. It
Yeah.
makes me almost feel like I failed them. But
Yeah.
based on what George Post said, you're not going to be able to help everybody, and that was the biggest lesson.
Yeah, and that was a hard lesson to learn because when you have a person that, like you yourself, you've been exposed to children, you've been exposed to a wonderful upbringing with discipline and leadership and mentoring in your village that you talk about in your book, and you feel as though, I'm equipped, I can help you. But a lot of times, if people are so bound that they're afraid to change, they're afraid, it's not that they don't necessarily not want the help, but they're just so afraid and they get stuck. So yeah, I can only
Well,
imagine that that's an
yeah.
invaluable lesson. So listen, we're getting ready
Yes.
to head down. I
Hmm.
just have a few more questions that I want to ask you for your podcast, because we want to stop again and emphasize, get the book. We're going to have a pre-order for you out soon, for you to get 50 Years of Love. And right now we're displaying the book cover for you. So we will have a link, and then we're also going to have a link for you to sign up so that you can learn more about the book.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you apparently you have impacted a thousand lives or more, because one of the things that we know is when you impact a person, you don't just impact that person, you impact everything around that person, their family, if they get married, how they're going to interact with their children in their community. How do you hope that your legacy as a mentor is remembered? And just give me just a one liner if you can, because I know you can go, Larry. So I just want you to give me a one liner. How do you hope that your legacy as a mentor is going to be remembered?
I think that in order for a young person or anybody to be able to realize their true potential, they've got to have structure in their lives. And
Mhm.
a person who is a mentor who understands that, you're not becoming a mentor so that the child can do whatever they want to do.
Right.
You're not there to be a pal or a friend, although you could be that in some cases, but you're there to help them to get to the next level. And actually, mentors don't have to be just have to be with children. But all along the way, I mean, even coaches, those who are listening, who are coaches, your job is not to win basketball games. That's not the main, or whatever the sport is. The children will forget their win-loss record as they get to be grown and have children of their own. But they're going to remember what the team was like. They're going to remember what the coach was like. They're going to remember what
Right.
their teammates were like. And
Hmm.
so and so mentoring becomes important because we're just not going to be able to grow up and be able to realize our true potential without somebody older or somebody more experienced helping us along the way.
Right, right. So, in your talk and then also in your book, we learned that you've figured out your calling, that you were going to work with children, you were going to be a mentor. You were in school for business, and you're like, nope, you don't want to be doing debits and credits all your life.
Yeah.
For someone who's listening to this today, who wants to be a mentor, what is your best advice for them to get started?
I would say spend some time taking an inventory of what you have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
You have to figure out what is it you want to become a mentor. What is it? What is it? The main thing you're going to present in this mentoring relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If it's in general that a child should grow up to be a productive adult, is it? Are you a business person and you want to mentor somebody to become part of a
Mm-hmm.
business? I think those are things when you uh, decide you want to be a mentor. First of all, if it's children who really, in some cases, really need it,
Mm-hmm.
they might not come off very nicely when you first approach them. And one of the reasons is because they might have been let down by adults before,
Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
heart was broken. And so in their minds, they might be thinking, I'm gonna act a fool. If this person's gonna leave me, he's gonna leave me in the first couple of days.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to open myself up again and
Yeah.
then have this
Yeah.
grown person let
Yeah.
me down. And so they might act foolish. They may act obnoxious. They may not disrespectful. But if it's in your heart, you gotta have a tougher skin than that. You gotta say, okay, listen, little by little by little, show that child that you really care and that you're there
Right.
for the long run, long haul, and they you're not going to let them down.
Yes, right, right. So we're just having a conversation here. And one of the questions I do want to ask, can you tell us about a mentee whose journey deeply moved you?
Uh, there are I can't point out one, but there are two real quick ones. There's a young man that was I worked at Ferris School at one point, which is essentially a jail for kids, for
Mhm,
boys. And we worked with this young man, all the young men. And at one point when he was leaving Ferris, I said to him, you cannot go back to your friends that you had when you first came in here. You got to
mhm,
change your life. So he ended up going back to William Penn High School. He played football, stayed, kept his behavior clean, and he went to prep school and played football. Then he went to college and played football, and now he's a he's a coach of many forms, and he's a teacher at Tally Middle School. His name is Maurice Hunter, and in fact, he and I talked, last summer or so, and he told me that uh, they actually want him to go to administration, but he
okay.
doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to do that because he loses the personal contact with the kids. And that
Yeah.
and that really, I'm excited about that story. Sherry Dorsey was in my day camp. Her and her sisters were in my day camp when she was really little, and she became my state representative, my
Oh,
government state
wow.
representative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So there
yeah.
are several stories.
Yeah, and that's the exciting thing about your podcast, Larry. That things that you were sharing with me, is that you have so many people that you could bring on to bring things from their own perspective, and also how it can help to really fuel this understanding of how important mentorship is and mentoring is. When you look at the people that, I mean, you've mentored all types of people who became, with their PhD educators, pro ball players. I mean, just different things. I don't want to give it all away, but I'm just
Yeah.
so excited to see the fruits of your labor, because a lot of times we think that they're not listening, and sometimes they may not be listening, but it's the way you're making them feel. You're making them feel valued, and I think that's so exciting. So I just have one more question for you.
All right.
And this is thinking beyond your book. And then I want you, and I know when you close, you're going to let us know how we can contact you. And, we're going to put all that up on the screen and stuff for you. But are there any future projects, speaking engagement, or mentoring programs that you're working on now?
I would really like to expand my ability or opportunities to speak, um, to be able to bring my message to a large group at one time,
Mhm.
speak to students who need to understand that whatever it is that you want to do, somebody else has done it before you, and you need to seek out some of those people. Either it's your school teachers or it's your parents or whoever.
Mhm.
So that. But in addition, there is we just as mentors and helpers. We are our brother and sister's keeper.
Mhm.
We can't function in a society if we don't help each other.
Right,
And so
right,
that's
right.
something I would really like to get across, and for people to see in the book, and for me to be able to go out and speak to college students or college teachers. Same thing with high school teachers or high school students or
Mm.
parents, or going back
Yeah,
to Ferris or
yeah,
going down to the Smyrna prison.
right.
All of that. I'd be glad to do that. Speaking
Yeah.
is going to be something in addition to writing.
Yeah, so that is so so important. So, and I know you're going to provide the information about your website, how they can why don't you refresh your memory again? What is your website? And then you're going to post it on your at the end of your show here so that they can go in and log in and sign up on your website. What is your website again?
Is very easy. Is LarryMMorris.com. No dots between the words. It's Larry M Morris, MORRIS.com.
M for men.
And M
Okay.
that's my God-given name with the M in the middle, but stands for mentor for the purpose of helping others now.
Yeah.
So LarryMMorris.com, and that will take you to the website that will give you, those who don't know me, give you some insight of more about me, but it also give you a breakdown of when the book is coming out, when it's available, and or how you can sign up to get notified when the book comes out, and all that.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Thank you for allowing me to just pick your brain and ask you questions and just having a conversation here. So, thank you for having me on your show. And I thank you for having me along this journey with you to help you write your book.
Well, Sister Beverly, I'm so happy that you were here, helping me to share with the public. Um, my website gives you an opportunity to learn more about me. However, uh, there is a whole need. I'll be with the podcast and the website. I'll be bringing other people into view who have different levels of mentoring and helping in the community. I just think that that's the way to go.
Right,
Our society is just breaking down, and because we don't have communication between one generation to the other, or
right.
one race to the other,
Yeah.
or one culture to the other, and that's
Yeah.
what I want to bring. So please, go to the website LarryMMorris.com. Go to my Facebook page. It's Larry M. Morris. Um, Inbox me if you have any questions.
Hmm.
Just feel free to do that. We're gonna have a book launch that'll be announced pretty soon. But we will be interested in doing individual book signings at churches and community centers and so on and so forth. So that's something we can arrange if that's your desire.
Yeah. And then an important thing, and I know I'm going to be doing it too, is to make sure that we click the bell to follow you and get notifications when you have your next episode up. So thanks
Yes,
again for having
yes.
me, Larry.
This is exciting. This is exciting. So it was so good to be with everybody today. This is going to be the first of many podcasts, and just feel free to reach out if you want to. Sister Beverly, thank you so much for joining me on my first. And good day to everybody. Have a great day. Have a great afternoon. Keep up your work that you're doing, and signing out.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. All righty. Bye bye.